Okay, Faik, thank you very much for joining this Point Talks conversation, and it's nice to have you virtually here in Sarajevo for this time.
It's my pleasure to be with you.
Yeah. My first question will be concerning your web page, yeah, your portal that you are editing. How popular is actually Kallxo in Kosovo, and would you say that citizens of Kosovo value Kallxo as a reliable source of information?
Well, actually, Kallxo was developed. It started as a necessity of our operations. We were producing into News Kosovo, of which I'm head of, together with local Birn office. We were producing two of the highest rated and highest valued TV programs, and we were having a huge input, a huge income of information and reports, citizen reports, that we had to classify them in a sort of way. So Kalza was actually developed as a platform on which citizens could report corruption and other wrongdoings of the government, fraud, election fraud, municipal level problems, public utilities, malfunction, things like that. And I think up to today, Kallxo is a very rare story of success of such a platform where citizens can report their problems. Professional journalists, researchers would go out on the field. They will investigate and they will produce a web reportage, an article, a whole TV program. But that's not where the story ends. After that, we have a legal office here in our organization that actually goes a step forward. Based on the findings that our team, researching team and investigative team does on the field, our legal office sits down and they write an official letter to relevant institutions. And then we kindly remind those institutions upon their mandate and about their legal duties, and we ask them when will they take some measures regarding what we are reporting. And then we do a follow-up every 2 weeks, every 1 month, just to increase the pressure on those institutions to fine twist their arms into making them doing their job, their work that they were supposed to do in the first place in the beginning. And then we report back to the citizens again. In the meantime, we started populated the Kallxo platform with daily news because we are known, amongst other things, we are known to be quite reliable. And one of the maxims that I try to stress upon my colleagues is, for us in Kallxo, it is very important to be the first. But much more important for us is to be the last one who speaks about something, who reports about something. So we are not in a way these tabloids, virtual tabloids that you can see all across our neighboring countries in the same way as in Kosovo. But we are quite reliable. And what we do is we regularly measure this thing through polls, and every 3 months we ask the public opinion about whom they trust to fight against corruption most in Kosovo. In the last 5 years, it was the same answer. Number one answer on fighting corruption in Kosovo would be Kosovo Police. Number two would always be Kallxo. And on number 3 and 4 would be either Anti-Corruption Agency of Kosovo or EULEX, the EU-based mission here in Kosovo that was in charge of some legal duties. But these two would change their places. On number 5, we had the Kosovo prosecution. But since 2 years, we have been engaged in helping out the Kosovo prosecution with our resources at Kallxo. On helping them improving their image, their public image, their media presence, And Kosovo prosecution has had quite an increase of the trust of the public. So in principle, this would be an overview of what Kallxo does and how we function. We are present on several platforms, on TV platform, online, as an information site, but also what is much more important, as a platform on which citizens can report their issues, their problems of whatever kind it is.
Why did you choose actually to cover this issue of corruption in the first place? And how much the problem of corruption is actually big and present in Kosovo society today?
Let's put it like this. 17, it's 17 years now. 17 years ago, my colleague and I started a TV program, a TV debate. And its focus was accountability, because Kosovo 17 years ago had a class of politicians who were ruling the country, and that they were giving no accountability to anyone, because they are the fathers of the nation. They know everything. We, the nation, Raya, don't have the mental capacity to ask questions or to have an opinion, and they would do all the thinking for us. After we increased this pressure on checks and balances, on accountability, we saw that there is another problem in Kosovo. It's the issue of corruption, lack of credibility, lack of ethics and morale into one's professional and day-to-day life, and we were challenging that. We were trying to reveal cases of corruption at a time when Kosovo's prime minister, and I remember specifically this question, when he came in front of the Kosovo parliament, and in front of 120 parliamentarians, members of Kosovo's parliament. He started accusing that someone from civil society is talking about corruption in Kosovo, because there is no corruption in Kosovo. I challenge each of you, 120 deputy parliamentarians, show me one case of corruption in Kosovo. And I was astonished. I was watching that that parliament session on TV, and I was like astonished that 120 heads bowed, not having the guts, the courage to stand up and say, yes, there is corruption in Kosovo. We wanted to. My colleagues and I, we wanted to have a society, a state, a country in which we live by the rule. We live by law, where rule of law is absolute, is strong, and is implemented for everyone in the same way, regardless of which party, which nation, which ethnic background you're coming from, etc. That was when we started challenging corruption, and lately we are also now trying to focus more on rule of law, because rule of law, prosecution, our judiciary is lacking behind, and we have a huge problem with rule of law in Kosovo.
You had elections recently in Kosovo. And how much the topic of corruption was present in political campaigning of political parties in Kosovo during the political campaign?
It is. I think that after 20 years, I mean, now let me give you a very short overview. There was these elections will, according to my opinion, will be remembered by three major issues. One, a huge victory of a political party that started as a student movement, as a youth movement years ago. of Vedmendosje, they achieved to get something a little bit more than 50% of all the votes in Kosovo, and that party is being known as a party that does not. That is very rigid in its path, in its opinion. So its flexibility, political flexibility, has been questioned several times in the past. That would be one thing that would be remembered. The second thing that would be remembered is the fact that Lista Srpska, a political party that somehow should represent the interests of Serbians living in Kosovo. Actually, it's totally Vučić controlled from Belgrade. It's like a political puppet of Belgrade, Vučić's Belgrade interests in Kosovo. They tried a very cunning maneuver on hijacking votes of other non-majority ethnic communities in Kosovo with some of the Serb votes. They tried to somehow hijack seats, the parliament seats, reserved seats for Bosnians and Roma ethnic community, which our system somehow put a stop to. In what way, it's still questionable, but the election results were certified, and there was a stop to it. And the third thing that these elections would be remembered is the fact that they were held under extreme conditions of COVID-19 and weather. It was quite cold. This would be a short overview of our last elections.
And how much pandemic of COVID-19 affected the election process in Kosovo in terms of voters turnout and some measures which were in power or whatever, generally how pandemic affected the election process?
I don't think that pandemic affected in any way, in a major way, the election results or turnout. People were. It was very clear that the atmosphere, the political atmosphere, has changed in Kosovo, and hence the huge increase of popularity and political power for Vedmendosje, and a huge drawback for other parties like LDK, PDK. Nisma it didn't even manage to get the necessary votes to get in the parliament, to get a single seat in the parliament. What is very concerning is that the election campaign, the pre-election campaign, started much earlier during the COVID situation, and political parties and politicians were somehow they had the amnesty of the entire system because the rigorous anti-COVID measures were not imposed on them. We had several very minor cases when political parties were fined for their gatherings and for breaking anti-COVID laws. But in a principle, it was a huge disappointment of the public when they were seeing political parties organizing gatherings, rallies, and other forms of gathering in which they were asking the votes, while at the same time people were denied on having weddings, having family reunions, any kind of celebrations. So it did leave a very bitter taste, to say the least, in the public, and it was showing a huge irresponsibility from the political parties and politicians towards the overall situation. And mind you, now it is almost a month after the election day. Kosovo was in a downward path of casualties and the number of infected with COVID-19. Now we are seeing a rapid increase of cases, and actually this is a time when we as society have to pay the price of not respecting anti-COVID measures during the pre-election campaign and during the election process, election day.
And what do you think? Did the pandemic actually affected the results of the elections in Kosovo?
No, I don't think the pandemic had anything directly to do with the pandemic. It might have somehow increased the existing feeling of discontent of people. It might have somehow helped increase, but very minor. In a very minor way, the overall feeling of the overall feeling of that the people were not satisfied with the existing political situation and COVID situation. It all added up, so people would maybe be a bit more bitter on the previous political parties that brought the country to this situation. But again, I would stress it would be in a minor way, not something that would be worth mentioning.
Did you actually notice some kind of misinformation that was spread around the elections in Kosovo? And if yes, what kind of misinformation you noticed?
Well, like in the region and in the world, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation is a part. Fake news is a part of our daily public life. A few days ago, I heard an interesting expression. It was in the times of pandemics, we have infodemics. And it was something related to that would put in mutual relationship COVID-19 and all this misinformation and infodemics. Yes, there were strong cases of fake news, fake accusations. In lots of cases, you had information about pandemics that were being contextualized for a certain political party or a certain political representative. Nothing that would not be that would be out of the framework that we would see in the entire region. Kosovo is lacking a lot any kind of tools to fight this the malinformation, the misinformation, because there is a very small number of credible media that would be used as a point on which you could somehow contextualize the entire scene. But on one side, it is very costly, and it is very it causes a huge problem for our public scene, public life, not only political life. Especially the fact that Radio Television of Kosovo is known to be a very biased TV station, politically biased TV station.
How will Vetevendosje victory in elections affect Kosovo political dynamics in the future? And do you expect more stability in Kosovo political scene now?
It remains to be seen, first of all, whether Vetevendosje, regardless that they won the majority of the votes, they still don't have enough votes to form a government. They need coalitions, and on top of it, Kosovo has a specific situation when we don't have a president, because the last president is now in Hague facing accusations about war crimes. Now the situation is complicated in a way that the new parliament, after it's constituted, has to be able to deliver to the public a government that will rule the country that would govern the country for next years, and it has to provide a new president. The issue is that Vetevendosje has won the elections by saying that Albin Kurti would be the head of the government, who would govern the Kosovo for 4 years, and Vjosa Osmani would be their candidate for the president of Republic of Kosovo. Now, other political parties have their reservations about this, so it remains to be seen whether Vetëvendosja, first of all, will be able to deliver a president and a prime minister for Kosovo. After that, we can see, we can talk and see whether the new 4 years are going to be stable, peaceful, or whatever. Now, the only answer at this point is that it sure ain't good, but it's interesting as hell.
And as my last question, I would like to ask you, what are your plans for Kallxo for future, and are you developing any new products, and what are your plans for 2021?
Kallxo is all our media products, including the Kallxo platform, the TV programs that we do, investigations, court monitoring of expenditure of public funds, fact checking, because we are an IFCN certified member, are mainly funded by donor support, and we are seeing a decrease of donor funding in Kosovo as in the region, which is quite concerning. So financial stability is one of our main concerns. We have several projects that we are looking into, but everything is still on the air because of COVID, because of political situation in Kosovo. So we'll have to see how things develop. But one thing is for sure, we will definitely continue to be a credible source of information, a non-partisan source of information, and we will do our best to inform on time our audience about the truth.
So thank you very much, Faik, for this interview. I hope to see you in Sarajevo in some better times.
Thank you. The pleasure was all mine, and all the best to you and your colleagues, and stay safe.
Okay, stay safe too. Thank you very much.
Tumetieta.